In this module, we're going to take a look at one of the most powerful features in Faceware Studio, and that's the ability to adjust individual tracked values through the use of custom Python code. This can be incredibly powerful, as it gives us much more control over individual values than simply using the multipliers that are available in the animation tuning panel. Now, of course, an in-depth lesson on all things Python is beyond the scope of this module, but we can take a look at a specific example where a simple Python expression can be used to fine-tune the results of our facial track. So here's a good example right here. In our performer's face, she clearly looks concerned, yet for some reason, our 3D representation of the track is looking a bit angry. When we look over at the animation tuning panel, we can see that the anger is coming from the fact that the brow down left and brow down right values are fully activated. This gives us these down eyebrows. What would be ideal is if we could identify some control being tracked on the face that is related to this concerned expression that could be used to attenuate the degree to which we're lowering our eyebrows. So let's scroll through the animation tuning panel and look at all the controls that we have available to us. We have some eye look direction controls that are being activated, but they're really not related to this expression of concern. Further down, we have some other controls that are being activated, but again, the jaw open and other mouth controls really aren't directly related to this particular look of concern. Finally, at the bottom, we can see that there are some controls here related to the nose, sneer left and sneer right. These are being activated, and they're being activated because of our performer's look of concern. So let's use this value here as a means of attenuating the degree to which the eyebrows are being lowered. We'll do this by creating a custom effect using the Motion Effects panel in Faceware Studio. To begin the process, we'll click the New Effect button and select a primary control that we'll be adjusting. We'll start with brow down left. Next, we'll select an effect. Rather than use one of the preset effects that are provided by Faceware as examples, we're going to go ahead and create a new custom effect. We'll need to give this effect a name. In this case, it'll be Fixed Brow. Next, we get to define some of the parameters that will be used for the fixed brow expression. X, Y, and Z values can be either a value or a control. In this case, we'll want the X value to be the control that we're going to be adjusting, brow down left. So we'll select a control and choose brow down left. Likewise, we'll need to be able to bring in the value from that nose sneer track. So our Y type will also be set to control, and we'll choose select control, type in the word nose, and we'll select nose sneer left. The remaining values can stay the same. We'll choose confirm to set this up. And now we're ready to adjust our Python code. To do this, we can click this launch button, which will open the Python code for this expression using whatever the default tool for editing Python code is as set up on your system. Here's the initial code that Faceware set up for our custom effect. It's a calculate function that receives 5 parameters, x, y, z, c, and m. These correspond to the input values here in the Faceware panel, x, y, z, rate, and intensity. At the moment, the function is simply returning x, which is the incoming parameter. In our case, that's the brow down left. We're just passing through the value at the moment. We can see how this Python script can work if we simply change the return value. Let's adjust it to the value of z. Save our changes, and then refresh here in Faceware Studio. We haven't seen an adjustment yet, but that's because our z value is still set to 1. Let's change this to 0. We should see an adjustment in the left eyebrow. And sure enough, we do. We could set a value of 0.5, or return ourselves to a value of 1. Great, so we know our Python code is working. So now let's set it up so that the nose sneer left, Y input, is able to adjust the degree to which the eyebrows are lowered. Going back to our code, we would do this by making sure we can output X. Here we go, return X. And we will multiply this, attenuate it basically, by an expression of 1 minus y. This expression works to attenuate the degree to which the brows are being lowered, because every one of these tracked values falls into a value between 0 and 1. 0 is corresponding to the calibration pose, the relaxed face, and 1 is fully activated. So, as our nose sneer left value increases, it'll fall in a value between 0 and 1. Therefore, as this increases, it'll subtract more and more from this 1, making a value that's lower and lower that we're multiplying by our x value, which of course is the degree to which the brows are being lowered. So this begins the attenuation process, but it would be good to give the user some control so that this attenuation could be tuned based on the performer's expressions. So we'll multiply this by another parameter. In this case, we'll use the z value. And now that allows the user to adjust the degree to which the attenuation will take place. We do have one last little bit of safety to put in here, and that is because multiplying by z could result in a value that's greater than 1, which will ultimately multiply our brow lowering by a negative value, which could result in some unpredictable expressions. So let's clamp this to a value that's no higher than 1, and we'll use a min expression to do that. So min 1, comma, y multiplied by z, and we need to add one more close parenthesis to finish out our expression. So this way, anytime y times z ends up being greater than 1, the minimum expression will make sure that it is clamped back down to the value of 1. In that case, our entire expression here would be a 0, and brows won't be lowered at all. I think our expression's done. So let's save it and refresh. And sure enough, we now have a little bit of reduction in the degree to which this brow is being lowered. We can increase this by tuning this with this z value. Instead of a value of 1, let's try 1.5. That gives us a little bit. Let's try 1.8. Let's go with that. This looks good. Now, we want to use this same expression on the other eyebrow. We'll create a new effect for the other eyebrow, select the primary control. In this case, it's brow down right. And then we'll select Effect. Fix Brow is now available under our custom effects. And we can match our parameters accordingly. For X type, we'll set it to Control, select a control, and it'll be the brow down right. Y type, also a control, select a control, and again we'll use a nose sneer. We'll also match our Z value, 1.8. Confirm, and now our brows match. We can play our animation, and now we'll get more expression from our CG character that matches our original performer. As I hope you can see, this feature in Faceware Studio is incredibly powerful for fine-tuning the results of your facial tracks.